You may be familiar with the Black Death, the terrible plague that gripped much of Europe for years starting in 1346 and caused an insane amount of deaths. But did you know that in 1518 there was a very different kind of plague that occurred in Strasbourg, France? It all started with a woman named Frau Truffet. It was a sunny July afternoon when the town's inhabitants spotted Mrs. Truffet dancing by herself in the street. This was unusual, but not alarming at first. I mean, what could be more harmless than dancing, right? Dancing is probably one of the most enjoyable activities you can do with your body. Except Mrs. Truffet didn't look like she was enjoying herself. She looked panicked, her face was contorted, and her eyes drawn toward the sky as if she was in a trance. This was weird, but still nothing to worry about, until other people started joining her. Men and women gathered around her, dancing for hours without stopping, and by the end of the week, there was a crowd of 30. By the time a month had passed, there were 400. The manic dancing continued for days until people started dying of exhaustion. The city's authorities weren't much help. For some inconceivably stupid reason, they thought that the cure for dancing was more dancing and that the citizens would be cured from their mania if they were allowed to dance day and night. I guess maybe they felt like it was something people had to sweat out of their system, because the authorities went as far as building a stage and hiring musicians and professional dancers to accompany the crowd. The dancing didn't stop until September. The last remaining dancers were carried away in wagons, and the whole epidemic ended as mysteriously as it began. I know what you're thinking. There's no way that this actually happened, but believe it or not, it wasn't the first time this sort of thing occurred, and the 1518 case is actually pretty well documented. One theory is that the dancers had been accidentally poisoned with ergot, a type of fungus that grows on rye that causes seizures, spasms, mania, and psychosis when ingested. This was probably not the case though, because ergotism causes gangrene as it cuts off blood supply to the extremities. It would have been pretty hard for them to keep dancing if they were unable to move their feet. The dancing was probably caused by mass hysteria. These were very superstitious times, but more importantly, the poor residents of Strasbourg were often sick and starving. When people are distressed and desperate, they can do some pretty crazy things, especially if they believe in things like demonic possession and worship a guy named Saint Vitus who was said to have the power to make people dance compulsively. Think about stuff like faith healing and suicide cults. People can do some unbelievable things when they're in a highly suggestible state. If you like this video, please subscribe to Crypticc for more.